The Churches in Peacebuilding Conference is a wonderful opportunity to come together during a time in the world where there are many conflicts that are afflicting Christians and other people. We know that within Ukraine, on account of the war in eastern Ukraine and Russian aggression, that there are over 1.5 million internally displaced people. It is well known to the general public that the religious dimension and the conflicts between churches and among religious leaders is contributing to tensions in Ukraine. And this is an opportunity to provide Christian witness to the question not only of how to resolve the conflict, but also on how the churches might begin to reconstruct society in such a way so that the religious groups are able to work with one another, coexist together, and build reconciliation not only among the churches, but also within the fabric of society itself. So this is a wonderful opportunity to gather multinational, international perspectives from a variety of experts from across the world to come together and to dialogue and to contribute to society at large on what might our individual theological traditions contribute to this question of peace building. So, for example, there is a question of moral obligation. What is the proper role of the church? What roles might the church play? And of perhaps even greater importance is the question of what happens after the war. I would like to say a brief word as an American of Ukrainian descent. All of us carry within us a historical memory. My grandparents came to the United States following the Second World War, and they carried with them this historical memory of the Holodomor, of the Stalin terror regime, of World War II, of the Cold War, and this is something that shapes our identity for the rest of our lives. So this conference is an opportunity to reflect not only on how to resolve conflict immediately, but it's also an opportunity to reflect on how might we work together to build society in such a way so that we do not continue to use the same negative view of the other that's based upon our historical memory, so that then result in the eruption of violence and in conflicts that essentially are reincarnations of what happened in the past. Now I would like to say a brief word about my own contribution to this conference. My contribution is rather narrow. It is based upon the Byzantine legacy of sacramental theology. In the Byzantine sacramental theology, everyone receives an identity, and this identity is on the basis of words. So in Byzantine sacramental theology, for example, in the 4th century in Jerusalem, the Bishop of Jerusalem, St. Cyril, had a number of instructional lectures that he provided to the people who had just been baptized. So, for example, at one stage of the process of becoming Christian, they were catechumens, they were photizomenoi, those who were about to be illuminated, and then after they were baptized, they became servants of God. They became Christs, Christians, and Christophoroi, Christ bearers. These are very positive words. They're powerful words, which are summed up in our contemporary liturgical celebration. Every time a person goes to receive Holy Communion, they are told that they are the servant of God, and then they have their name. So this very positive identity of servant of God is a way of thinking about Christian responsibility, about the way that we live our lives on a daily basis. In the contemporary discourse that we see taking place during the time of war, it is not this very positive aspect of identity that we see driving the way, shaping the way that we think, the way that we interact with others, but instead it is a more negative view. The example that I would like to draw from is from some research that I've done in the way that people who are from other Christian traditions become Orthodox. In the contemporary Orthodox ritual of conversion via the anointing with chrism, people who, for example, were, say, Protestant, in some versions of the rites, they have to renounce certain teachings of the community that they came from. In reality, what results is that they are not only renouncing specific teachings, but they're changing the relationship with the community that they're coming from when they're entering into a new community. In a pastoral context, this can create tension. This can alter their view of the community that they came from, their community of origin. And so they might begin to view this community of origin in a negative way, which has an impact on the way that they relate with people from that community. This way of viewing the other is a way, has contributed to the current religious differences, the arguments in between Orthodox, Greek Catholics in particular, with reference to the conflict that has been occurring in Ukraine since 2013 and of course has origins before then. So, for example, on the part of the leaders of the Moscow Patriarchate, their claim is that Greek Catholics and members of the Kievan Patriarchate are schismatics and heretics, whereas they are canonical. So this creates a situation of dialogue where the canonical ones are always right because they are lawful, because they are conveniently have the side of divine law, whereas the heretics and the schismatics are viewed very negatively. This stands in direct opposition, in juxtaposition to this very positive sacramental identity of being a servant of God. And the most terrible problem that emerges from this situation is that those who adopt the view of saying that we are canonical are unable to view their own moral failures and thus enter into an actual dialogue with people of other faiths. And so the solution to this problem, and this is something that I will expound upon in my lecture at the symposium, is that we need to have a recovery of this very positive notion of sacramental identity where everyone across the board is a servant of God. Instead of using words like canonical, uncanonical, heretic, and schismatic, we should instead adopt the very positive vocabulary that we are all servants of God, that we are all Christ bearers, and this will equip us and shape us in such a way so that we are prepared to approach those whom we might view as opponents instead as potential friends, and begin the process of rebuilding reconciliation and of establishing friends within within society as a whole. So I embrace this symposium. I feel honored to be able to offer a lecture at this symposium, and I very much hope that the symposium itself will not be just a snapshot, a moment in time, but that the symposium will be something that becomes the spark or flame that ignites a change in the way that society as a whole understands the Church's role in building peace. Thank you very much.